Isn't present. Watch on the playback. All right. So good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, my name is Michael Barreau. I have been consultant on this project thus far. So I do want to thank everyone for making time. Today we're going over item creation training. Okay. My goal is to show you how to add items to the agenda. However, I'm going to show you some ancillary features that I find beneficial for me, and hopefully that'll expedite a lot of your processes and help streamline how you all are able to work within the site. Okay. So first and foremost, we're going to go to this user menu real quick, just for those of you who haven't been here prior. And we're going to start with preferences. Basically here, it's where I go in. The only thing I want you to focus on is this middle sentence. Okay. And you'll notice that this cursor turns into a hand towards the end, indicating it's a link. Okay. So once you click this link, it does take you to an area in which you can update your first name, last name, and your password. Okay. Uh, Now we're going to go to email notifications. Basically, there are a plethora of notifications to receive alerts within the system. If granted the opportunity by your agenda managers, they'll give you a choice as to some of them which one you want to receive. And if you do, you simply click it and save that change to ensure that you are kept in the loop as to when these alerts are sent out. Okay. And last one is if you are an approver, here's where you would come to set up someone to be your backup approver, right? So let's say, for instance, you're going out of town for a week, but you want to make sure you streamline the process of items being approved to ensure that the agenda is published on time, right? So we'd select the user, right? You just pick on you, Blair, and then duration, right? It can always be ad infinitum. So if the person's going to be there perpetually, we'll just put always. If it's going to be for a extent of time, right? Let's say we're going out of town for a week or so, you select that date range and put it here. Thereafter, on this end date, that person would fall off promptly as your approver, and you can always place someone else at a different time or just keep it without one if you don't need an approver. All right. Before we move forward, anything unclear about using this link to reset your password or update your first and last name, choosing notifications that you want to receive in the system, or setting up an approver on your behalf? Okay, move forward. Next, we're going to review the Help Center. My best friends, hopefully you all get acquainted. It's in my toolbar. I'm in here every day. Basically a library of information. Since this is a pretty robust website, I can't show you how to do everything today. However, if you are curious, you could always use this tool to find instructions as to how to accomplish certain tasks, right? So let's say, for instance, I want to learn how to upload agendas and agenda files, right? I'm going to type in upload agenda. Here we go. Upload an agenda and agenda file. So I may be using external documents and I'm not going to create agendas from within the site, but I still want them to be part of the portal, right? So I want to upload them. This is a great tool to find instructions on how to do that. So I'll pull up this article and I'm pretty spoiled. So I do have a dual monitors, right? So I have my work up on one screen and conversely, I'll have this up on the other. And what I'll do is this first option allows me to go through, I'll click through tutorial. So it gives me a facsimile of the website. So I see exactly where I'm going to go. This red outline indicates where I should be clicking, right? So it's giving me directions. And it's also verifying if I'm doing the correct task by, on this right-hand side, indicating what I should be seeing as I'm clicking and entering information. All right. So this is the click-through tutorial. If you don't like doing things while you're learning, you may be a person who likes to read things, thereafter apply it. We do have screenshots as well. Right? Directly below that, we have numbered instructions and screenshots. Keep in mind, it's the same information, just a different presentation. Okay, the same images, the red outline indicates where you should be clicking. And then directly above that, it gives you explicit information as to what you should be seeing as you're working through the site. Any questions about how to arrive at this help center or the functionality behind it? Duly noted. All right, so once you're able to log in, you'll end up at this dashboard area. So everyone's dashboard can be curated contingent upon what you want to see. So let's say, for instance, I go to this filtering area. It says show. So this is going to give me the ability to see items, right, that are added on the agenda, any approvals that may be pending for me to take a view and perhaps modify it and then send it out to the next person, or a task, right? And this is just me someone making a request of me, or me requesting something of someone else to be done to an item on the agenda. All right, so I can have these on my dashboard. So upon entry, I am notified and I can keep up with the progress of these things. So I'm going to see all three. And then I'm also going to include the completed. So let's say, for instance, a task was requested of someone and they completed it. I still want to have it on my dashboard so I can keep up with what was done just for record purposes. So I'm going to include what's been completed. And then I'm going to come up here to this view area. And now it's saying, okay, I have it on me. So this indicating it's going to show items, approvals, and tasks only for me. But I'm nosy, right? I want to see everyone. So I'm going to click everyone. All right. Thereafter, I can also narrow down for, is it going to be all upcoming of these pieces of information? Will it be the next 60 days? No, I want to see everything. So I'm going to do all dates. Then I'm going to click search. All right. So once I fill in all those filtering options, all of that will populate for me on my dashboard. So now it's been disseminated into three parts for me. I have items, right? I have approvals here, none pending. And I also don't have any tasks pending, right? And keep in mind, I'm going to elaborate and delve deeper into approvals and tasks later on today. The item is pretty straightforward. It's just those pieces of information put under those sections on the agenda. Okay. So keep in mind, this is a set it and forget it configuration. Therefore, once you have this set up, you don't have to do it every time. It'll remain that way every time you log in up until you change it as needed. Okay. Anything unclear about setting up your dashboard? All right. Smooth. Oh, is that a thumbs up? Like, okay, good deal, Peggy. We're gonna go to meetings now. I wish this was called agendas, but I don't gripe in public, so you're not gonna hear me say anything out loud. But this is where all the agendas are stored. Okay, so once an agenda is created and you want to add an item to it, this is where you'll go to this meetings tab. And then there are filtering options here as well. So when you see show, it's currently showing all upcoming agendas for all meeting types. However, if you only care about your board, you just come in and just select your board, and that would be what explicitly shows on this page. Okay. And so I'm going to do all agendas, right? And you'll see these random numbers. This is me being lazy, right? These are file names. These are not public facing. Consider this dress rehearsal, right? No one sees these agendas until we publish them. So right now, these are just reference names I've put because I was testing designs with your team, and frankly, I just didn't want to be. It was too laborious to put a real name, so I just put numbers. All right, shame on me. But anyway, this is the card view of these agendas. So each card is an individual agenda. Okay, and keep in mind each card has information about the agenda on it. So you'll see there are quite a bit here thus far. And what's good about these agenda cards is it gives you information as to where the current files have been published, right? So if I look at this ethics board, for instance, this tells me the name of this agenda's ethics board. Now, it's not public facing. This is more so of a reference name. However, the ethics board confirms what board this agenda was created for, okay? Directly below that, we have a date and time selected for the meeting, all right? And then here we have where the files are being published. So for the agenda, I know that it's currently on the public as well as the board portal because of these tags. Similarly, the agenda packet, I also know are published at both the public and the board portal because of these tags. However, for the minutes, I realized I can't confirm a file hasn't been generated. However, I can confirm it doesn't live currently on any portal because there isn't any tag here. All right. Typically, there's a cutoff date. So someone locked this agenda. So when it's locked, it just indicates a standard user cannot access this agenda. All right. Similarly to locked, you'll see on this agenda, you see a cutoff pass date. So if you ever see this cutoff date, there's a cool little calendar in the corner, just indicating when a standard user can no longer enter the agenda, giving the agenda managers time to review what's been submitted and publish the agenda on time. Okay. This meeting in the past in the bottom right corner is telling you, hey, this meeting was set to be done on Halloween, right? So the 31st of October. And if you look diagonally, we'll notice this same meeting date is congruent with what we see on this calendar. So these are always the same, right? And it's telling you the meeting has passed already. All right, so you do get a lot of good information just looking at this card, which is why a lot of people do like the card view. It's pretty resplendent, it's colorful, it's for the cool kids. Me, I'm more seasoned, I'm plain Jane, right? I like the list view, right? For me, especially when you have a myriad of agendas created, I can see more, so I can quickly peruse this list and see what I need. Also, I can delete things in mass. All right, so this gray header sort of works like a select all button for me. So I can click this and select all the agendas I want to remove, right, at any point, and here delete them in mass. I do like that. And then also, I can also see what's the cutoff date, the meeting time, all the information aside from it where it's published. That's probably the only caveat with the list view. I can't see from this view where things are published. All right, but everything else is the same. So within this card view, there's the list view and there's the filters. So with that, are there any questions in regards to the views, the information on these cards, or the filtering options to view these agendas? Why would you delete an agenda? Why would uh why would a normal user delete an agenda? Well, typically an agenda manager would delete them, right? A lot of times they're testing them. It may no longer be needed. It may have been made in advance, right? So I mean, there are a plethora of reasons as to why, but we don't want to have just a bunch of agendas for no reason. So the autonomy to do that. Okay, you're good. All right, of course. My pleasure, Laura. All right. So now if we want to add an item, we're going to click into one of these agendas so we can actually add an item. We're going to go to item creation training. All right. And here this opens up basically the line items that are currently on the template of the agenda. All right. I have taken the liberty of adding 2 items for the purpose of training. Okay. And then keep in mind, you can always remove items as needed. So typically you'll just see the sections here that have been implemented by your agenda managers, and then you can come in here and then add items. So today, as you can notice, there are 2 items on the agenda currently. And you also notice that there's an attachment, and we know that because we see this blue paperclip icon, right? It says item has 1 attachment. I'm not the biggest fan of this grammar, right? But I'm assuming it's preemptively anticipating more attachments, so we'll have to live with that. Nevertheless, you do know if there's an attachment on the item contingent upon seeing a paperclip icon adjacent to it. Okay. So we're going to create an item together. We're going to go to this create button, click item, and it takes us here. All right. So now we have sections and items giving us this drop down. So now we have the autonomy to choose where do I want to place the item. So I have to emphasize each section that's bold is each section. I hate using the same word twice in the same sentence. That bothers me. But wherever you see it bold, it just indicates it's a section, right? So we know it's like the parent, it's kind of like the first level. All right. Directly below that, we see it nested. Of course, you all know it's called an item. We see that indentation, right? It's kind of like level 2. And that final level, level 3, would be the child, right? Or the grandchild, rather. So I always do this because invariably, one of the most common questions I get is it pertaining to items not being placed in the proper area on the agenda. So keep in mind, the agenda will not adjust things because you may have placed it in somewhere that wasn't desired. Wherever you choose to place an item is where it's going to appear on the agenda. So I do implore you to be cognizant and vigilant when you add items on these levels, because wherever you place it is where it's going to be appearing. And if you put it in the wrong area, it can cause a cascading effect of incorrect placement of other items, especially for other people, because they may not be aware as to what the levels are. So you always want to be mindful when adding items to the agenda where you place them. Okay. So I'm going to choose a random place. I'm going to choose Planning Commission meeting minutes. And now I have agenda item name. This basically just saying, hey, what item am I going to add here? Okay, this is a text field, right? So I can always type in here anything I need to, right? And there are formatting tools, right? If I want to bold, italicize, I can add links, I can add photos, I can create whole charts, right? Nevertheless, you want to make sure that whatever you place here is what you want to show up on the agenda, right? So if you are going to copy and paste something from an outside source, let's say I pasted this, right? And it came with extra formatting, all right? What I would do, I would always implore you to paste as plain text. So that's right clicking, and you'll see this paste in this a button. You just click paste as plain text right below, and that'll strip the formatting, right? So we want to make sure it doesn't have any unnecessary formatting. If it's deliberate, of course, feel free to use them. But we want to practice uniformity on the team. So we want to make sure that no formatting that wasn't deliberate shows up on the agenda. Okay. So we have right click paste as plain text is one option, right? The alternative would be that auto hotkey, right? Akin to Control C for copy, Control V for paste. We have Control V shift, right? So if I do that, I'm going to try that on my keyboard. Uh-oh. There we go. I'm going to do Control V shift. That also removes that formatting that's undesirable. Okay. So now we have two options in our toolbox, right? We have right click paste as plain text, and then we also have Control Shift V. The last option, which I like to politely deter people from using, right, is this third button to the left that says convert to plain text. Now, it does the same thing. However, you see I have a chart here. I may have fiscal data imported here. I may have attachments, and then I click this button, and then I want to remove the formatting, right? So it'll do it, but it'll also strip away everything else, right? And I don't want to contribute to anyone's mental meltdown, right? I don't want any breakdowns on the behest of me, right? So I always implore people to be cognizant of those primary options I presented, that being the right click, paste as plain text, and then the auto hotkey, right? That Control Shift V, right? I know that was annoying. Hopefully that's the last time I could, I don't have to keep going on with this monologue about the paste as plain text, but I just want us to get it engrafted in our minds that it's important to make sure that we don't have anything on these items that aren't going to be presented on the agenda itself. Right. Next, oh, I see there's a question. If we make a mistake in where we add the item on the agenda, can it be fixed? Yes, it can. And I'll show you that right after this. Once we create this item, I'll show you where we're going to modify it, Jennifer. So next, we're going to click an item category. All right, so these are all required for reporting purposes, and we also tie approval workflows to these. So behind each category, there's a sequence of individuals who is slated to view this item if the item is initiated to be put in the approval workflow process. By default, it's not. However, I will show you how to start that process. All right, so I'm going to go to item category, and I'm going to just choose planning commission. And then the department pre-fills with whatever department is in your CP user profile. Okay, this is to make me feel special. It's not a real department, of course, but whatever department you're in is what's going to be pre-filled here. All right. So if you do have a department head that needs to see something in a workflow and that doesn't show in your department, you can always modify departments as well. So you can always come in here and change what department this item is slated under. Right. The item ID does nothing, frankly, so I would leave that as is. Okay. Attachment upload. So you can upload attachments as long as they aren't audios or videos. I will say I am negligent to name my attachments appropriately, so I'm gonna have to take a shot in the dark, see if I can find something hopefully appropriate. What are these? Bear with me. I don't know what these are. See if I can find an attachment for this. Go to documents. We're gonna pick two and we're gonna just cross our fingers. Let's go. Gonna pick these two. All right. So we've added two attachments, and now they're by default, they're non-confidential. Okay, that just means that whenever we do publish it, they're going to be visible on the portal by everyone. Okay, in the event you all have to ever create confidential attachments, let my team know, and we'll be happy to cultivate those for you. Show link on portal, by default, it'll say yes. It's going to show those attachments on the portal automatically. If for some reason you want to have the attachments on the agenda document, however, you do not want them to be shown on the portal, you would simply click no. Okay. So here we have those attachment names, given the file name, and then we have the public facing name, right? So the file name is not visible to the public. However, that attachment name is. So I always recommend you put a name that's legible and comprehensible. Make sure it correlates with whatever the attachment is, because we want the residents to understand what the attachments are without having to click on them. Before we create this item, is there anything I can review or explain further in regards to any of these fields when creating an item? Okay, we'll create the item. Once we create the item, it'll take us to an entirely different area called the View Item Fields area. And in this area, just gonna confirm the item you've created, right? And let's say, for instance, you made a mistake on that item. It's gonna show up here, right? So you can always modify it if you need to. I can add 1, 2, 3, add some numbers. I can remove things. At no point can you not modify an item unless it's been approved. So it'll lock after the approval process, or if an agenda manager comes in here and locks the item directly. So unless the item is locked, and it indicates here that the item is unlocked, it's always open for change. So you can go back to the agenda itself and click directly into it and make any changes you need to. So right now, I added 1, 2, 3. And it says the unsaved changes, prompting me to either remove this number I added to the item or save it. So I'm going to save it. All right. And now I have another version, right? So now I have two versions of this, and this version history allows me to retrieve older iterations of this item if I want to get those back at any point. All right. Let me zoom in so we can see this a bit. There we go. Short name. Before I do that, Jennifer, I know you asked in regards to making modifications if there was an error with the item. Does it make sense that how you can modify the item if needed, or do you need a further elaboration to that?
Sure. The way you explained it at first just made it sound quite dire as far
Oh
as
no,
ripple effects on other agenda items.
I didn't hear the inquiry in that statement. So what are you asking exactly? You said it sounded dire.
I just wanted to make sure that if you made a mistake when you were adding an agenda item about where you put it, that it could be corrected by you or someone else. Because when you explained it at first, it sounded like if you made a mistake, it could create ripple effects of mistakes. So I just want to double check.
Yeah, so all right, so if it's a mistake in perhaps error in spelling or grammar or verbiage altogether, you can always modify it here. In regards to placement, that also can be rearranged. So there is a reordering button that the agenda managers, before they publish it and review the agenda, they can always change the placement of an item. When I say the cascading effect is typically if one person puts something in the wrong area, other people will follow behind that person, and then there'll be a whole bunch of items in the wrong level because people aren't aware it's the wrong place. It's an easy fix at the end of the day. Okay. So the short name basically just truncates the item. Like you'll notice that it stopped here at the A in manager, and really this has no relevance in this training. This is more so for the minutes module, so I'm going to disregard this. Okay, it has no value to us today. Item ID just giving us the order that the item was created in, right? And this just reviews that information pertaining to that. Okay, so if I wanted to copy this item, there are some action buttons I can do to copy the item as well. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to go and create another agenda, and then I'll copy it that way. So I'm going to create another agenda so we can copy it too. I'm going to call it item creation 2. Item creation training 2. All right. So if I go to this action button, I have a copy. Oh, wants me to save that. That's cool. If I go to this action button and copy this item, and let's say I selected the agenda I wanted to go to. So now I'm going to select item creation 2, right? So now it's going to go to a whole different agenda. Okay. On that agenda, I can select the creator for it. Now I can keep the existing creator being myself in this instance, or I can have it to where someone else is going to be responsible for the item. So I'll just put their name in advance. Okay. When I have content to copy, I always want to copy the fields, okay, because that's the item itself. So you always want to copy the fields. If there's an attachment that you want to carry over with this item, so we did add 2 attachments earlier, I would copy the files as well. So the files is just synonymous with the attachments, okay? We never have to copy approvals because approval templates have been set up for each separate instance. So we never have to copy approvals. Copy options can ask, do we want to keep the current item ID? If you want that ID to remain 89 on that upcoming agenda, I could simply keep the current ID. If I want a new number to be generated, I would simply not copy that ID. Okay. Item reports. It's going to ask, do we want to regenerate item reports? So item reports essentially are the fields that are needed to create the agenda bill. So we're going to do that today as well. But if you want to carry over those fields that we're going to create later to carry over with this item, you would regenerate the item report. Okay, if you don't want that agenda bill to be recreated, wherever this item is being copied to, we simply wouldn't copy this item report. Okay. We never have to update the item layout because the layout has already been laid for each board. So we never have to modify that. Okay. Here is going to confirm the sections or items to copy. So this is basically saying, hey, I'm going to copy this item, and I can always change things as well. So I might be copying it, but it doesn't have to be a mirror of the item itself. I can always remove numbers and change things as needed. Okay, I can keep the same category and just choose where I want to copy it to on that next agenda. So once I press copy item, what it'll do is it'll take this item, it'll remain on this current agenda. However, if I go to this new agenda, it should have a copy of that item that I've sent over, placed exactly where I asked it to be with that attachment. So if I was to open this item, if I want to modify it, I could always come here and make changes as needed. Right? Any questions about copying an item? All right. While we're here, we also can move items, right? Very similar to copying it. So if we move the item, I would simply choose the agenda I want to move it to. And then the item report is going to refer to the fields that we're going to review in a few moments. And these fields are like the recommendation, the narrative, the fiscal impact. Those are the various text fields I've created for your agenda bill, which will also be populated in this area. So whenever you fill that information out, it says item reports. That's just our vernacular for it. But of course, you all refer to it as an agenda bill. Nevertheless, if you do not want that information to be carried over when you move this item, you simply would not regenerate the item report. Right? Alternatively, if you did want to carry it over, you would regenerate it. Okay. And we never want to update the item layout. Like I said, we've already made various layouts, so that's always good to go. Okay. Here we have message. This is a recent feature we've added to kind of notify people. So if I want to notify Christine that I'm moving an item, I can kind of deliberate why I'm moving it to her, so she understands why it's no longer on this agenda. All right, just kind of streamlining communication so she knows what's going on. Here we have sections and items to move. Basically, same concept, right? I can change this, I can add numbers, I can add an attachment, anything I need to. I'm basically just copying it over. Well, that's a misnomer. I'm moving it this time, and then I'm going to choose where I want to move it to. So keep in mind the only disparity between copying and moving, as the names imply, right? With copying, it's going to remain on that agenda. However, it'll just emanate a mirror image of that item to where we chose. or with moving, the only disparity would be it simply would be removed from this current agenda and placed on the agenda in place of our choice. Okay. Any questions about moving an item? Okay. Other action items, we have agenda preview. So as you're adding items to the agenda, you can always do agenda preview and see how they're coming across, right? So when you add items, it'll show you what that consists of. Okay. If there's an edit that needs to be made, you can always go back in and modify it so it can appear as needed. All right. Item preview. Typically, if you don't have an item report already created, you can check out attachments. Okay. So whenever you have various attachments, so I might have a couple of attachments here, or I have a couple of attachments. So you can always verify what those attachments are, clicking this agenda item preview button. And what that does is it gives you the order in which they were placed. So if they're in the wrong order, I'm going to show you in just a moment how to get to an area where you can update how they're being placed, because the order they're in here is how it's going to be displayed on the portal for the residents. Okay. All right, so we're actually going to scroll down, and I have these what I call other details, but basically what it is the fields needed to populate the agenda bill. Okay, so if I was gonna add, let's say estimated time, I'm just gonna put 39 minutes, and I'm gonna actually put in fields information so we can populate that report together. So they are labeled accordingly, right? So we do have recommendation, we have narrative. What else do we have? Fiscal impact and community engagement. There we go. Yeah. And outreach. So for each of these lines, of course, you could type into it. It's just like an item, right? So you can always type into these fields, and there we go. You can type into these fields, or you can copy and paste content. Keep in mind, I'm not going to give you the monologue about paste as plain text, but whatever you put it as here is how it's going to appear on that agenda bill. So just be cognizant when you're adding things, unless it's deliberate. You can bold things if you need to, of course, but keep in mind, you want to make sure that it's intentional, right? So once I save this, all of these fields for that agenda bill are now a data point that can be extrapolated to a different area. And we're going to go there just in just a moment to create that agenda bill together. Okay. So before I do that, is there any questions behind that? Behind these fields? I probably have too many tabs open on my other browser. Do it this way. It didn't like that. But while I'm filling these fields out, are there any questions pertaining to copying an item, moving an item, or filling out these fields to make sure we populate that agenda bill correctly? No questions? Okay. While we're here, keep in mind, if you want to send something out to be approved, you can always start the approval process right here, right? If you click start approvals, this indicator will now change, and it'll tell you who the current approver is, right? And it's always going to update pertaining to how many people are on that flow. Let's say, for instance, there were 8 people on the workflow. Let's say 3 people had already approved. What's 3 out of 8? 37.5, I think. 37.5%. That'll be the percentage that appears here, letting you know how far along this item is in that item approval workflow process. And it tells you initiated. So it is a deliberate process. You have to send it out to be approved. It will not do it automatically. Okay. And here's just a status bar, letting you know information about the item. Not a lot of salient information, frankly. I will say the only good thing to know is the item is unlocked, right? You do want to know that in case you want to make changes, because if the item is locked, you won't be able to make changes, and then you'll see this turn red. This icon that's green and seems ajar, it'll no longer be ajar, it'll be closed completely, and it'll be red. All right, you can toggle this away if it's annoying. It's up to you. This is a cool feature I like as well. I use this all the time. It's called the go to item feature. You notice you created the agenda bill fields here. So the recommendation narrative, so on and so forth. These fields, if you want to create those for all the items, right, we can go to item and select item. And what it does is pulls up a miniature agenda right? And then I can go directly to those other items and fill out that bills fields so I can do it streamlined rather than having to back out of the agenda and take the circuitous route, right? It's kind of a shortcut to ensure that you can get this done with expedience. All right. All right. Before we move forward and create that agenda bill, is there anything I can explain further or recap in regards to adding the item, filling out these fields for the bill, or sending out an item to be approved? Let's see what we've got.
This is Peggy. I had a quick question. So if you start the approval process, you can't, does that lock it? You can't make any more changes? Or
No,
not?
actually, well, I'll say this: at the end, it'll be locked. So once it's completely completed and approved, it'll be locked. But one of the cruxes of the agenda flow is to get modifications done by the various people in that flow. So while you're sending it, you'll be able to send feedback, and I'll walk through it with you as well. I'll go to the back end of it to show you that today as well. But you can send feedback, right, to prior approvers to ensure that they can add attachments, perhaps correct grammatical errors, things of that nature, and then send it back to you for review before it's placed on the portal. So it's not going to be locked until it's completely approved. Let's see. Maybe it's in turn is recommendation where the motion goes. Okay, Christine got you back. There she goes. Thank you, Christine. Is there a way to see a draft as it will print? What time is it? What I'll do is I'll kind of show you how to generate a file for the agenda. When you say draft, are you looking referring to the agenda itself? You want to see a draft, Ellen?
Hi, Michael. No, I was thinking sometimes I like to be able to see what the agenda bill is going to look like before it gets printed, so I can just make sure that the tables print how they're supposed to and stuff like that.
That makes sense. Okay, we'll create it together right now, and then I'll show you how to do that. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna go to this drop down called item files, and this is where we're gonna create that agenda bill, and then we can also review the attachments and rearrange them if we want to. So of course, item reports are just our nomenclature. Just if you see item reports, just think agenda bill, agenda bill, agenda bill. All right. All right, so we're gonna go to create and upload report, and then we're gonna just give it a name. I'll just call it agenda bill. And then we're gonna go to item report design. We're gonna click agenda bill. I've only added one Word design, so just you can click item report, and here's where you'll select whether you want to include this in the packet or not. Okay, so I'll click create file, and keep in mind at this point it's still modifiable, right? You don't see files here, but you see an eyeball icon, and then you see this regeneration icon. So if we click this eyeball, what it'll do is it'll give us the ability to see, okay, how's this coming along? So if there's anything here I want to add that I don't like, I can always modify that. Okay, so until I actually generate the report, it's not a static document. So I can change anything about this in any time. If I wanted to add something to narrative, let's say I go to the field and add narrative. Let's go to the field real quick and make a change. So I usually duplicate my screen and I go back to that item fields area where I initially added the text, right? Since it's still there. And then I'll just put 1, 2, 3 at the end of this, right? And if I save that and go back, I gotta choose a department. There we go. I'm gonna choose finance. But save that. So I added finance as a department, and I added 1, 2, 3 to the end of one of the text fields, right? So now it's gonna show finance as a department, and then it added 1, 2, 3. So until I generate the document, it's still dynamic. So at any point, I can still go in and modify the report, and I can download it as a PDF if I want to see exactly how it's going to look. And then at any point, I can make changes.
Okay.
And whenever what I see is sufficient, I can close this window and then generate it. So once I generate it, it is now a static document. Okay, so it is now going to be required that I delete this and then recreate it if I want to make further modifications. So once you see files, be it a PDF alongside a Word file, it is now a static document. And keep in mind, if you want to make an edit, you could download one of these, right? And then make the change and then come here and re-upload it, right? There's an upload feature as well. You just give it a name, determine whether you want that in the packet. Thereafter, you simply extrapolate that from your device, and then it'll upload just as if you created it from within the system. That is your choice. Does that answer your question as to how to preview the draft, Ellen? Sure, later on.
Yeah, I think so. Some of it'll just be, how does it actually work when we use it, right?
It depends. Do you need me to reiterate something if it was unclear?
No, I think it's clear. I just haven't used it myself yet, so I
Gotcha.
don't know if I entirely understand how it's gonna work. So what you're saying is if you have looked at it on screen, can you then go back and make changes or no?
Yes. So let's say I created the report once again, right? I'm just going to click 1, 2, 3 real quick, choose agenda bill, choose item report. And then once I've generated this, it's now a static document. This here is not quote unquote generated. I think the verbiage is kind of conflation there, but like right now I've created the report, but it's not generated. So now it's still a dynamic document. So I can preview it, I can see what it looks like, and if I don't like
Got it.
something, I can make changes.
Okay,
However, yeah, once I generate it, it's now static. Then it's going to be a little more difficult to modify it. So
Yeah.
that will require me downloading it and then re-uploading it.
and then on the text box that you're showing us, can you make those bigger so you can see more of what you're typing, or is it just the box as you've been showing it on the screen?
These here,
Mm-hmm.
yes, yeah. So this button here is a full screen button. You do have more space to see exactly what you're typing.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. And directly below here, just those attachments I added. So if someone adds an attachment you want, you can always come in here and download it. And then if you want the attachment to show up on the public portal, you could always come here to this button, and then you can show it on the minutes as well. Some people don't want their attachment to show up on minutes, so that's not a default. However, if that is something you desire, you can come to the attachment itself and then indicate you want that to show up on the minutes. All right. And you can also edit the order. I've seen some meetings where like they were showing tour maps and then it was like 8 pieces to the attachment and he had to reorder it. So we do now have a edit feature for the ordering convention, and then you can always modify the order of the attachments in the event you have a presentation that requires a specific sequence. Okay. Anything I can elaborate further on pertaining to the agenda build creation or attachments? Okay, let's go to item approvals. All right, so now I'm going to go to the back end. Typically, users don't have to worry about this. This is the back end for the approvers. So basically, this shows you the whole lineup of how the approval process is going, telling you who created the item and who initiated the approval, right? So here's going to put, I'm going to go ahead and put take action is basically where you can take action on an item that's been sent out for approval, right? So if I have approved, pretty much saying, hey, this item is good, I want it to stay on the agenda, and I want it to go to the next person. All right. Deny, I typically dissuade people from using that only because I'm big on feedback, and I think deny just shuts down the whole process, right? I like to know when I'm doing something incorrectly, I like to know so I can improve. So deny kind of inhibits that process. That's why I always recommend using return to creator, because it now provides me the opportunity to provide feedback and say, hey, you missed out on a few you have some punctuation errors here, or I didn't see the attachment for the item here. So you can delineate exactly why you're not approving it, receive that feedback, and then they can send it back to you so you can review it again. So you always want to have that option. And let's say, for instance, someone on the approval needs to be present that isn't present, right? And it may not be for the template. It may be for this specific item. I say, you know what? I need someone else to take a look at this, right? I don't need Christine to take eyes on this. So I'm going to add Christine, and this is impromptu, right? So she's not going to be on the template for this going forward, but for this specific instance, I need her to see this. So you can add her at any time, and then I can say, you know what? I want her to see it before Patricia. So I can reorder it as well, making sure that Christine sees it. Thereafter, Patricia will get a hold of it once Christine approves it. Okay. At any point, I can say, you know what, Patricia's not in office this week. We don't even need her to approve. So I can also remove her, right? And then now it's just going to be Renee and Christine. So you have a lot of flexibility in regards to who you want to approve items, specifically in each instance of each item. All right. So once I take action, right, I can approve it. I'm going to add one more person only because I want to show one more feature in regards to, there you go, Joe. Get in on the fun. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and take action, and I'm going to approve it on their behalf. So agenda managers can always approve on behalf of approvers. And the system is going to explicitly indicate that it was approved on behalf of someone and not a direct approval. Okay. So I'm going to take action for Christine as well. And then here you'll see an extra option has been added, right? To further provide the availability to provide feedback. So now, since someone has approved already, I can send it back to Renee, right? So she can get some feedback as to how to improve that item, or I can send it back to the creator, right? So I have a lot of options in regards to who's viewing the item, in what order, and how I can get them to modify it so it is correct. Thereafter, I can place it on the agenda. Okay. So once I approve all of them, you'll notice the indicators increasing, and now it'll tell me it's at 100%, right? It tells me the date and time that everyone approved it and who approved it directly, or if it was vicariously, okay, on behalf of someone else. And then it confirms that the item was locked, right? So now the item is locked. A standard user cannot access this item anymore. You can no longer modify it. Only agenda managers going forward can manipulate this item. Any questions about the item approval workflow, like what the functionality is? Yeah. Is there a way to? Oh, I have a question when there's a minute. Oh, a minute has arrived, Chris.
All right, perfect. Actually, I have two questions now.
Let's do it.
Question on this part is, and I'm sorry if you already said this, but are there items that get set up with pre-established like approvals, or do you have to set up the approvals every time?
Good question. So I typically tie the approvals to categories. So contingent upon the category selected when you're creating an item, there will be a preset sequence of individuals tied to that category in the event you send the item out to be approved.
Got it. Great. You're just showing us how to manipulate that after the fact if we need to add or delete or whatever. Okay.
That is
The
yes.
other question was, I'm sorry, I missed the first couple of minutes, and maybe you went over this context, but just so I'm clear, it sounds like this system is like item based as opposed to agenda based. Like right now, the system we're using is kind of focused on the agenda item, right? So everything like goes into that item. It is the agenda bill, so to speak. I guess what I'm saying is the agenda bill carries all the information. In this case, it's kind of like the item, it's item based, right? So it's like you put all the pieces of the item together, and then you create an agenda bill or a report as a part of that item. Is that correct? Is that context correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different than what we've been doing, but I think I get it.
Yeah, and if you have any questions surrounding that, like feel free to let me know. Like I know it's a kind of a bell curve, but once you start working in it, there's a help center, and then at any juncture you can ask me questions, be it big or small. Like I'll definitely help you out. Make sure you seamlessly understand how to create these reports and agendas for that matter.
Thank you.
Yeah, anytime. Okay. Now we're going to go to item task. Item task basically gives you the ability to streamline requests from within the system. So let's say, for instance, I would need something to be done on this item. Rather than copying this item, going to Outlook, and then creating an email, I can just send you a task, right? What I can do is choose a status, put it as medium. I'm going to assign it. Been bothering Christina all day. I'm going to keep bothering her. And then I'm going to go to target date. I'm going to ask Christine, can you please have this done by next Friday, the 14th, right? And I'll go ahead and notify Peggy, because Peggy may need to assist her or support her in getting whatever task I need done, right? So I can just put as a title, add attachment, and then I can just put add attachment to this item. Like, right? So when I say this item, did I misspell it? Oh, grammatically that wasn't correct. Thank you, Grammarly. All right, but yeah. So here, when I put this, I don't have to really elaborate on the item. You can, of course, if you want to, but we're already within an item. So you don't have to be too meticulous in regards to explaining the item because we're sending this task from within it. So once I add this task, it's gonna send a notification to Christina and Peggy. So they'll now know that I've requested this of them. And if I go to my dashboard real quick, I'm gonna have record of me asking that task, right? So here on my dashboard, if I go to task, I'll see that I assigned this to Peggy. So every time I come in here, I'll know how this is coming along. And whenever she's completed doing that task, she could also create a task and send it back to me, letting me know it's done or asking me further questions if needed. Okay. So it just tells me that record of me requesting that task of Christine and then when it's due. Anything unclear about adding an item task?
This is Peggy. Is there a button to say it's complete, or would you just send them back another task note?
You would just send them back another task note. Typically, people are like communicating in this tab, so it's seldom just like complete. Is usually people are like going back and forth within here to make sure that everything has been done done correctly.
So I see there's a little red dot next to it right now. Does that change color once the date has passed?
I think the red dot is aligned with this legion, telling us what the
Oh.
priority is.
Oh, the priority. Okay. So you would just look by the date and
Yes.
have a task list of things.
Yeah, that is correct. Okay. One last thing I want to review is item timeline. Not really an actionable area, more so for streamlining visibility. So everything we've done thus far is being tracked, right? So it's giving us who did it, and what time it was done, and what portion of the system it was done in. Right? And if something is glaringly obvious to you that you need to point out to someone, you can come here at that person and simply send them a message letting them know, hey, Peggy, I seen this was done at this time. Was this intentional? So you can actually alert people of things you've seen on the timeline, right? To ensure that everyone is informed as to what's going on. But not a lot of actionable tasks that can be done in this area. It's more so just giving transparency to what's been done within the item. Okay. Any questions around the timeline? All right. Well, I mean, today I really wanted to show you how to add an item to the agenda. You know, I want to go into some of the supplementary features to hopefully streamline communication amongst your team and provide the opportunity for feedback so you all could modify items according to what's needed before it's published to the portal. So I do want to open the floor for questions. Is there anything I can further elaborate on, perhaps recap, or just something that you were expecting to see that I wasn't able to show you today?
I have a question, might be an internal question for Christine and Peggy. When will users have access to sort of navigate around in Sandbox? And then when are we going to be expected to be executing, like to be putting items, real items in the system?
Hey, it's Christine. So we are moving the system over with the first January council meeting and the first January planning commission meeting. So
Okay,
I can give everyone access at any time. So if you're ready to start testing things out, I can activate you.
I think that'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Sure. Michael, I had a question. The whole agenda bill item creation is a little different. So you have to actually generate that item. At what point are you generating the item? Is that prior to submitting it for approvals?
Yes, so the item has to be created so it can be submitted for an approval.
And then how do you can't modify it after you create it? True?
Well, you can, yeah, at any point until it's locked. So right now this item is locked, so we couldn't modify this one. Well, I could and you could, but a standard user couldn't, right? Although at any point, if I create an item, I'm gonna put test in here. It's just gonna be on the agenda. However, I mean, it's always open to be modified. So I can change it here if I back out of this and just go to the agenda itself. Once I click into this area, which is the item I just added, I'll allow it the availability to update it as needed. Did I lose you?
Nicole, I see your question. So we are saving all of the recorded trainings and putting them on our intranet.
This is Peggy. Can I show where that is real quick? Just share that.
You want to share your screen?
Yeah, is that all right?
Of course.
Just
Yeah,
real
it's all
quick.
yours. It's all yours.
And we'll do this one. So if you go to the city clerk, or well, actually the SharePoint site. So this is the city clerk. It's up here in this top bar, and this is across all of the city's SharePoint sites, this training link. If you go to this
Peggy, I don't see your screen.
oops, sorry. Oh, I had to hit share too. Thought I saw a line. Is it sharing now?
Yes,
You
it
see my
is.
screen?
I can see
Okay.
it. Yes.
So this is the SharePoint site. This bar along the top is across all of the city web SharePoint sites. It's the training links, the last one on the right. And if you go over here to the AMMS training, Alan has downloaded the first two that we've done through the admin stuff.
So I do want to welcome you to your agenda and meeting
Oops.
management.
Can stop that. So there's the first one. And if you scroll down, here's the second one. Right below it, you can check that one. So, and then after we get this next one, it will be the third one. So that will be the third training and it has the date. So that's how you access those. Any questions?
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Well, I know I've been babbling long enough. Stop the